Ireland, Jacqueline DeLong, Canada, Ram Brunei, India, James Finnegan, Ireland. James was very interesting because he integrated quantitative research methods with qualitative research in the creation of his living theory. So you'll find in this thesis how his work in mathematics and science brought in quantitative measures in terms of his living theory. So it's a lovely piece of work integrating both quantitative and qualitative data in terms of his thesis. Peggy Leok, Singapore, looking at the values, and she describes herself as an East Asian woman coming into a white Western context and exploring the tension between her values as a Chinese and East Asian woman encountering me as a white male supervisor, and we had different values. Mine was about democracy and autonomy, hers focused on excellence, and her thesis is a beautiful piece of work where she actually retains her integrity and shows how she negotiates in a different culture some of the values in her practice. Terry Austin in Alaska, head of a charter school in Alaska, looking at her practice of community. This is a different one from the police service. That Jeff Mead was a superintendent of police in the police service in our National Training College, and he did his action research in relation to his work in the police service. Again, another police officer here, and that one is interesting, of Hilary Shotbrook, because when you ask about how to write up your action research account, Hilary had done some early work using action reflection cycles, and then said that these really didn't capture the importance of dialogue and conversation within her life and work. So her whole dissertation is in the form of letters to Jack. That what she did was treat me as someone that she could write literally anything to, and she showed over a period of a year how her learning improved through the letters that she actually wrote and what she included within. And the whole dissertation is in the form of those letters. So that is a highly original form of representation. And again, this is a lovely piece of work from Limerick University in Ireland, supervised by G. McNiff. And again, from Rowan University in the USA. But that, if anybody questions you about the validity of this kind of work, you can say that examiners from all over the world are accrediting and legitimating this work in a very wide range of universities. And in terms of our international external examining process, it puts beyond reasonable doubt the validity and rigor of these kinds of accounts. The sheer number of external professors from different parts of the world that have been involved in the legitimation of these accounts now is so many. If you'd asked 30 years ago, it would have been very different. It was quite difficult to get the doctorates or the masters by action research and living theory legitimated within the universities. Whereas now all over the world you've got people who understand and can actually legitimate. You will still, in Thailand, maybe because the Thai academic is not familiar with these kinds of approaches, you might still get questions about the validity and the legitimacy. Well, you'll be able to point them to researchers from all over the world in very prestigious universities that have got their doctorates for this kind of work. In relation to masters, again, please do encourage people to go into the master's work. The last update was a head teacher, Joy Mounter, as a head teacher researcher, how can I demonstrate the impact and self-understandings drawn from living theory action research as a form of continuing professional development. So this is a head teacher that has studied her own action research in her school, and again with her pupils as well as her staff. And this was Joy's. Do you remember? I hope you remember that I showed you one of Joy's earlier accounts. This is as a unit where she actually wrote in relation to understanding learners and learning this one about the children carrying out action research and becoming action researchers in their own classroom. That was with the task wheel, can children carry out action research? So if the teachers are worried, and your cooperating teachers are worried about carrying out action research, you can show them the 6-year-olds working on the action reflection cycle of the task wheel to do the action research in their classrooms. And Joy has worked with those 6-year-olds, and if you just ask them to read this, you will see what the 6-year-olds have actually done with Joy, and you can go down to look at the video clips of the 6-year-olds demonstrating that they can use the action reflection cycles. So I do hope that I'm emphasizing enough just where to go to get these particular writings from teacher researchers to demonstrate something rather special about the process. So that is the masters. On the left-hand side, there's a rather special one which I'll just point to before I go into these other home pages. But what is special about this is that Moira Laidlaw did her masters at the University of Bath, then I supervised her doctorate. She then went to China for 6 years on what we call voluntary service overseas. It's called VSO. It means someone is willing to give part of their working life freely to a different country. So Moira went for 6 years to China, and the Chinese Dean of Education at Ningxia, it was then called Kuyuan Teachers College, which has now become a university. It's now Ningxia University, Teachers University. And the Dean liked what Moira was doing so much that over 2 to 3 years, he put in a proposal to the Chinese government to create China's Experimental Center for Educational Action Research in Foreign Languages Teaching. This was opened in December 2003, and you've got here the fact that the action research here has become a focus in relation to the new curriculum in China. It's like in Thailand, the Chinese very much want to get more creativity in their schools, and their curriculum reflects it. Again, you're already doing this in China. They were seeking to evolve a new form of action research, which they say we are calling collaborative living action research with Chinese characteristics. Again, you'll find in your collaboration that you can bring something unique into the action research community through your relationships. So this is why I'm really urging you to videotape some of your work together, because I think the Thai researchers will be able to bring something really unique into the world of the action researchers based on your relationships. The Chinese are already working in a different way with their collaborative action research with Chinese characteristics. Now, you can scroll down this site. You can get the opening of the centre. It might be in your universities. You can encourage the setting up of action research centres to improve learning. This was really exciting that in 2004, Win Jay Bao, the Premier, he actually set up, you know, the Chinese Friendship Award. This is a very prestigious award in China, and Moira was given the award for her services to China, bringing action research into the centre. Now, I just wanted to put in and show you this because Moira's texts are really interesting. That how I developed a more democratic educational practice from my living educational theorizing. How we might enhance the educational value of our research. Developing research methodologies. And then Moira has got 2 handbooks which are freely available for you in teaching communicative methodology for for the new curriculum to student teachers, Handbook to a teaching community methodology. So you can access these freely. And then you can access some of the action, and these are really impressive because a lot of these are written in the second language. It's like yourselves producing your first action research reports in English. This is the Chinese students' first action research reports in English. How can I help my students' motivation in speaking? How can I improve students' learning by increasing their interest and confidence in learning English? So all of those are available for you if you just want to look at what some other teacher researchers are doing in a different cultural context. Now the last thing I want to show you comes down to the bottom of the page, on the other home pages. Because in many ways, the other home pages gives you access to such a range of resources from around the world. We'll just see, the connection may have gone down, but we'll just see. I might have to come back to that because of my connection. Let's just see. Oh no, we're okay. The reason why this other home pages section might provide you with resources that you can use is that a lot of people have sent me their websites. It's like you created your own websites. These are being provided by other practitioner researchers for you to access and have a look at. I'll just mention just some of them. Remember Jacqueline DeLong? I showed you that paper on a culture of inquiry. Jacqueline DeLong's homepage puts you into touch with a large number of accounts, explanations from the Canadian researchers in publications that Jackie referred to as passion in professional practice. This takes you to Action Research Canada. You could create your own network of the Action Research Thailand. When I get back to Bath, I'm going to create a practitioner researcher list for you. I'll check with Professor Van Tieper what you would call it, but it could have Thailand in it. It could be Thailand Action Research. But I'll check which name that I should give it. But you'll see that within this particular Action Research Canada, if you go to these here, you can access the work of the researchers that Jackie has been supervising. Look how similar that is to your problem. How can I change the culture of a school? So, what this principle was wanting to do is bring something that you've already got established, which is empathy. You've already got a high degree of empathy with each other, and I believe your students. This head teacher wanted to develop a better and enhanced understanding of empathy and how to live it, so that is what she wanted to do to change the culture of a school. Again, you just go down, what is in the nature of my influence as an educator? And again, how can I influence teacher? And this is a particular kind of technology in daily practice. But you can access these from this particular website, the Canadian one, Action Research Canada. These are all the different papers from this particular group. That's Action Research Canada from Jackie DeLong's website. If you go into Jackie's writings, you get a lot of the papers. This was the one I showed you from AERA that has just been presented. There were two that we actually presented in San Francisco. The 2011 paper, and you can see the developments, 2010. So you've got the documents that you could actually create for yourselves that show your development over several years as you continue your action research. This is what I like very much about Jackie's website, that she's actually documented over time her developments. So that's Action Research Canada. If we go into some of the links, you've got links to GMACNIF's homepage, you've got Action Research in the Grand Erie Board, you've got some to my own sites. This is an interesting one. What is this? Teach in Thailand. These are usually adverts, which sometimes come into Spanningfish. Now that's just by chance that this is there. It's encouraging people, volunteer in Thailand with Friends for Asia. That's an interesting. Volunteer English teaching in Thailand. So like Maura Laidlaw did in China, you've got that advert for the Canadian Action Research groups, encouraging them to volunteer to teach in Thailand. So many Thai students grow up thinking that their English ability is next to nil. Now you think of how shy you were, some of you, initially in this room. Professor Van Tieper actually urged you to come to speak. As you heard each other, it is very clear that your English is far from nil. Your writing and your action planners can be shared with anybody. But that is interesting that the volunteer projects in Thailand, Friends for Asia, rural schools, okay. That was just something by chance that came up on the Action Research Canada website. Now, I don't want to keep going on without giving you the chance to respond or say anything, but those other home pages section there is a very important section because it takes you into Yvonne Grotti's website in Dublin. And remember what I said about these two co-directors of this centre here for e-innovation and workplace learning. It's all about the action research, digital creativity, educational innovation at Dublin City University. And this is one of the most exciting websites and centres that I've seen anywhere in the world for stimulating the use of the new technologies, not only in the classroom, but also for research. Their master's students and also their doctoral students. That Yvonne got her doctorate last year with Margaret as her supervisor. And I'd supervised Margaret's doctorate several years ago. So you can see how this work is developing and extending. But I do hope you will access Yvonne's website as well as Margaret's because they did this amazing work in a particular international conference 2 years ago, which was all about what is called diverse. And diverse stands for developing innovative video educational research sources for students everywhere. Now, you can access there some of the keynotes, the social media in a changing world. This, as I say, this is one of the most exciting conferences I've been to for the use of the new technology. So if you are going to present at an international conference in Thailand, I think that this will show you where the world's best centre has got to in terms of developing innovative video resources, literally for students everywhere. I felt very privileged when I was asked to give one of the keynotes at the conference, and you can access it here, where I was outlining something that we've talked about, but I also show my own use of video within this keynote address to that diverse conference. But I do urge you to look at the work in this particular centre simply because of its innovative use of the multimedia and the technology, not only in the classroom. They stress the importance of the classroom, they also use it very much in research. And I feel really pleased to be involved as an examiner of this particular master's program, because each year I see it developing, the quality of the work actually improving as everybody is getting better and they are at the forefront of the field. So that is the diverse international conference that Yvonne here was the chair of that committee. So I hope you will access both Margaret's and Yvonne's web pages and the work in the centre. I'll just very quickly, I don't want to confuse you with this, but Sigrid Gutterud is a Norwegian researcher who has got an article in eJolts and is looking at the knowledge, the nature of the knowledge that we have published in eJolts. That is Sigrid. Again, Chrysoula is in Greece and looking at how to spread these kind of ideas within the context of Greece and beyond. Action research in Ireland. This was an interesting book. This is a book that is available on Amazon. I'll just mention this one. These are Irish teachers. It's like your cooperating teachers. When they produced their doctorates, they were all practicing teachers. So they were all like your collaborating teachers working in schools with the students. This is Catriona McDonough, Mary Roche, Bernie Sullivan, and Maureen McGlynn. And they've just, about 18 months ago, produced this book on enhancing practice through classroom research. It is a book on action research. They've created their living theories, and they've got their doctorates for their research in the classroom as a teacher. Now, many Thai teachers won't believe about the value of getting their doctorates. The university academics won't think of supervising Thai collaborating teachers to get their doctorates for what they're doing in the classroom in working with you. But this work has already been undertaken with the University of Limerick. This was with Jean McNicholas, supervisor, and you can access their text here. So they've already published the results of their work. You can just get those names. Ranko Bogner in Croatia, he was one of the first to set up eJolts. I showed you a little bit of a clip of his 11-year-olds in Croatia doing action research in the classroom. And you can access that in the first issue of eJolts. Now, I'll just pause here because I've also put some of the Collaborative Action Research Network, the details of some of the networks around the world that you can actually link into. We've been into 3 of you already, the Practitioner Researcher Network, but you just get a sense of the simple range of people around the world doing action research. Robin Pound is what is called a health visitor. It's when women have had their first children, the health visitor visits to help them in terms of looking after their new babies. And Robin has got a doctorate from their study of a health visiting practice with the new mothers. It's a beautiful piece of work. Okay, let me just pause there. But when you've got time, just go through. I don't know what this one is, but let me just get mindful practice. Again, I think this will have been influenced by Buddhist views in relation to notions of mindfulness. I was asked about e-journals. You've got there an e-journal, Action Research International. These are the Passionate Professional Practice volumes from Canada. I'll just see if this links in, because this site is now called the Canadian Journal of Action Research. So where you were asking for refereed journals to actually publish in, if you go into the Canadian Journal of Action Research, the recent issue can be accessed now. Volume 14, number 2000 of 2013. So again, freely accessible, fully text, peer-reviewed electronic journal intended for elementary, secondary and university teachers, exploring the unity between research and practice. And you'll find an increasing number of these peer-reviewed journals are now becoming accessible. A new one is started in South Africa. This is quite a well-established one, but look at what they've done. They've moved from the Ontario Action Researcher, and Ontario is a province in Canada, and they've now extended to become the Canadian Journal of Action Research. So they're now, in relation of a country-wide influence, they're extending their influence. This is like in North America. The Action Research Network of the Americas has just got underway. 4 weeks ago I gave this workshop in San Francisco at the inaugural conference of the Action Research Network of the Americas. So you can access that from the other home pages of interest. I like this one. The teaching today for tomorrow, if this one loads up, this has got some beautiful papers in, and again, it just gives you an opportunity as an outlet for some of your publications. But the Canadian one would be a really good one. You'll also say in the other home pages, I'll put the links to the African journal, the South African journal, which has been supported from Nelson Mandela University, and they've got out several issues now. Now this was the one I'm hoping some of you will access, the Brislington Training School in partnership with the University of the West of England, because this actually goes through the, let's just see if I can access, if I can access for you, I may not be able to, but the methodology is the methodology that I've been exploring with. And this was a training school that was set up as a partnership with the University of the West of England, and it required the induction of staff into action research. And this is the website that was built to support the induction of staff into the action research. So in all your partner schools, if you want to see what a training school in the UK has done in a partnership with a university which draws on the ideas I've explored with you, then do get into that website. Any problems accessing, just let me know. And actually, these are the questions that the teachers were asking, and there are answers here, question and answer. The actual reflection cycle, critical trend, but I want you to make sure that you actually see what is available for you if you want to access it. And that is from the Brislington Training School in partnership with the West of England. But it's sometimes useful to browse through this educational action research. I'll just check that one for you. Action Learning International is another one. That might, again, it will come up with the details. If you want to know how to publish something in these journals, you can click on those, and the details of how to submit your publications are on the website. But you also know that you've got my email. You can ask me questions if you've got anything further you want to develop. But what I've just tried to do is summarize where the resources are so that you know that you can access them. And I just wanted to reinforce where you can go to access those free resources. Now, let me pause there because we've only got a few more minutes left, and I would prefer to finish off with your voice rather than mine. But I did want to just reinforce what we've done over the last 5 days, where you can go now for those free resources, share them with your colleagues, so that we hopefully can sustain a kind of inquiry that you've begun over the past 5 days. I've got your photographs, I've got your web pages. I'm going to start you with an e-list that if you want to use it and help to follow, just brainstorm ideas, share them with each other. You'll have a forum in which to do it. Okay, so are there any other issues or responses or points you want to raise? Because, as I said, I'd much sooner finish with your voices than I would with mine. Okay? Yeah.
You offer the follow-up workshop?
A follow-up workshop. Yeah, you've got two ways really in following up. You remember in Bath that what I've been doing with my own practitioner researcher PhD students or masters is, and this is unfortunate because we've had a 5-day workshop. I meet with my groups often once a week, and that can go on between 8 to 10 weeks. They have those kind of units. After about 10 weeks, we've got material that we can share to build up a report that we could then put to a validation group. After about 14 weeks, we've got something that can be put in for a master's accreditation. Now, a notion of a follow-up workshop, we've got a couple of ways of trying to do it. Obviously, in a couple of months or whatever it is, you could have me back face to face. But there is something I think we might try as an experiment. And that is that Marie Huxtable, who you met on the video, and myself are supporting an international continuing professional development program. It could be that if we get the E-list for you, for example, Action Research Thailand, that we manage to provide either with Skype, through email, through the E-list, sufficient communications for the support that you feel you need to be offered at a distance through the internet with the help of that virtual learning space. Now, it's that I must admit that I would like very much to try. I'm very committed to spreading these ideas as widely as we can, and the internet allows us, I think, to move away a little from the face-to-face, although I would love to return to see how you are doing face-to-face. At the same time, I know that I cannot visit all of the places that I've given the workshops in to sustain, but what I've been able to do is to sustain a commitment, often over years, with people who are developing their action research through the internet, through the virtual learning space. So within each of your universities, it might be that we can actually retain a connection with your action research process. It could be that over, for example, in about 8 to 10 weeks, you all agree that you'll put something into the web space that actually shows what it is you've been doing. I can then get my action researchers in Bath to act as critical friends, to respond to your writings, to see what it would be to try to improve them. You could then hold your own validation groups within your university to ask and answer those questions that we've raised. It may be in 12 months' time, there will be some opportunity, as we've talked about, to present at an international conference. I think you mentioned the possibility of a group of researchers in Thailand bringing on their action research about the partnerships with school-university partnerships. It could be that over those 12 months, I've responded to some of your writings in a way that you can be confident you can go to an international conference and actually present them. It could be in 12 months, we've managed to get 1 or 2 papers into refereed journals. Now in that way, we could check whether or not ideas which may have excited you, or you feel that the government is wanting these partnerships to develop. The international, again, it's lovely to have the Institute for the Promotion of Science and Technology, if they can support by archiving some of your resources and sharing them and getting the technology used in the research, which is not at the moment, this will be a very powerful indicator of the influence of the IPST in supporting the partnerships between universities and schools. So I hope in those ways that we can just check out, are we actually, again, that Marie said, walking our talk, yeah? Can you see that I haven't just come as a one-off event? You know, the work I've been doing, when you think this has now been going 30 years, you know, I went to the University of Bath in 1973. So it is actually In fact, it's nearly 40 years, isn't it? Can't count. It's nearly 40 years of active work on action research. And we've had 5 days. We've said, I think we've been fantastic in creating your web pages, getting your action plans, looking at the cultural influences, and you've shared with me something I had no idea of, the importance of that seniority, helping me to understand that sense of the passivity. Professor Van Tieper then coming and urging you to come, and participate, and then you doing it so well. Now all of this I hope we follow through. So we're actually together showing how your Thai cultural values of cooperation can be brought more fully into the work. I would love to get some of the video clips, because the camera person has been going round and showing you working together. Now I haven't got those clips. I'm going to get Professor Van Tieper's next week, and that's when I will build up my own evaluation report and include your question about what might we do to actually sustain this inquiry. Okay, is there anything else you'd like before we finish? Just say, and then we can actually, we will finish. But I want to make sure that you've got as much as you possibly can from the workshop. Is there anything else that you're feeling? Because that's really important, to follow up the sustaining, and I'm looking forward to seeing if we can do it. Is there anything else that you feel you would like to add? I think we finished 10 minutes early. Is that okay?